This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. It's the height of the holiday shopping season, and yet no decision as to when the Billings Big Bear store will open.
3 weeks after the store was damaged in a police standoff and shooting, the owners of Big Bear Sports Center still unsure when the store will reopen.
Now, the owners tell Q2 today they do know the store's doors will not open in time for this weekend shopping rush.
If you recall, the front entrance of the store was demolished and the interior sustained major water damage in a police standoff that started during the early morning hours back on the 4th of November. A man drove his vehicle through the front of the store, then opened fire at responding officers. He
was eventually killed by police gunfire some 9 hours later. They provided an update to customers on Facebook before Black Friday, saying crews were still working to get things in the store dried out and would hopefully have more updates soon.
On Capitol Hill in Washington, the Senate tax reform plan could head to a vote as early as this Thursday. But as it stands now, Montana Senator Steve Daines could be among those voting against the measure.
Daines, a Republican, posted on Twitter today about a conversation he had this weekend with President Trump. Daines said the two worked through concerns about the bill, but still, Bloomberg Politics reports a Daines staffer confirms he will vote the measure down in its current form.
Daines reportedly believes the tax cuts do not benefit Main Street businesses. In a statement, Daines says he doesn't want large corporations to gain the competitive edge over smaller businesses. If Senator Daines votes no, he would join two other Republican senators in dissenting. It will only take 3 Republican no votes to kill the bill.
Meanwhile, Democratic Senator Jon Tester is also still a no on the bill. He says, quote, the Senate bill as currently drafted saddles our kids and grandkids with more crushing debt by adding nearly $1.5 trillion to the deficit. And it raises taxes on Montana families, forces cuts to Medicare, and benefits wealthy out-of-staters at the expense of hardworking Montanans.
One of 2 suspects accused of killing a man over drugs in downtown Billings will be sentenced next month, but not for murder.
Q2's Asia Gore paged through those charging documents and brings us the latest on this 2-year-old case. Asia.
Jay and Jeanelle, prosecutors say the murder happened during an attempt to rob the victim of drugs. Now one of the suspects heads to trial and the other perhaps to the state mental hospital. 29-year-old Garrett Crandall, who was recently found competent to stand trial for the murder after months at Warm Springs, recently pleaded guilty to robbery. That plea agreement dismisses the murder charge against Crandall, effectively pinning the victim's death on Ross Brashears. Clinton Oldbull was shot and killed in October of 2015. Prosecutors say Brashears went to the home on North 24th Street with the intent to rob Oldbull. Crandall admits he went along to help commit the crime and drove the getaway vehicle, but witnesses told authorities Crandall was the one to pull the trigger. Crandall was being treated at the state hospital for mental illness until a hospital employee testified in August he may have been exaggerating his illness. Now prosecutors plan to recommend Crandall be sentenced to 20 years at the Montana State Hospital. Meanwhile, Brashears will be tried for the murder in February. Jay and Jeanelle.
All right, thanks so much, Asia. Well, the State Workers' Compensation Fund has gone to court to block a $30 million transfer of the fund assets meant to help balance the state budget. But now it appears that fund may withdraw the lawsuit. MTN's Mike Dennison has the story.
2 weeks ago, a special session of the legislature passed several measures to fill a $227 million hole in the state budget. Part of that package is a bill transferring $30 million from the reserves of the State Work Comp Fund into the state treasury. The day after lawmakers left town, however, the state fund filed suit to block that transfer, arguing the money is for use only for work comp claims related to worker injuries.
Once it is established that the legislature can legislate and take assets through whatever means they choose, then that means that there's no protection to the assets of Montana State Fund for the very purpose for which the premium was paid, and that's workers' benefits.
But since then, Governor Steve Bullock has appointed 2 new members to the State Fund Board, and that board has called an emergency meeting for Wednesday to consider withdrawing the suit. Bullock made it clear Monday that he doesn't think the lawsuit should continue.
I don't know that it's the most productive way when the legislature's passed this for the state fund to be suing the state of Montana. I think what they ought to do is follow the law that the legislature passed.
The State Fund is a quasi-governmental agency that writes work comp insurance for 26,000 Montana businesses. Supporters of the $30 million transfer say it won't hurt the financial condition of the fund. But state fund customers like State Representative Greg Hertz of Polson say the fund board should hold fast and not withdraw the lawsuit.
If we're going to take $30 million out of Montana State Fund, what happens if we have some catastrophic event or the stock market has a major correction? There's a lot of issues that could happen that could impact the reserves of state fund, and this just is not a good idea.
Hertz says he'll attend Wednesday's state fund board meeting to make his arguments. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks so much, Mike. And again, as Mike just said, the State Fund Board will meet Wednesday afternoon in Helena.
For more than 2 decades, an unsolved murder in the mining city of Butte has haunted the community and the victim's family. Tonight, MTN's John Amey brings us the story of Julianne Stallman, brutally murdered 23 years ago, but her family remains vigilant in their search to find her killer.
November 29th, 1994 is a day Jennifer McPhee will never forget.
I remember everything about that day like it was yesterday. So, I mean, I can, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, I can tell you exactly single thing that I was doing.
That was the day her mother was brutally murdered in her own home on California Street in Butte. For 23 years, the crime has remained unsolved. Her daughter, now 44, cannot understand why someone would harm such a good person.
She was the sweetest thing ever. She was the nicest woman. She was polite and energetic, and she had the most contagious laugh ever.
The day she was murdered, 41-year-old Julianne Stallman had left work about 1 p.m. at a restaurant on Harrison Avenue. She stopped at 2 stores before returning to her home. It was there, police suspect, maybe about 3:30 in the afternoon, she was stabbed to death.
It was a very violent crime, more than one injury, and so in the past we've thought that it's very possible that Julianne knew her attacker.
It's baffling that such a bloody crime in the middle of the day could go unnoticed.
And that's why we think somebody may have seen something that, again, isn't really something that sticks out to them as being something that's critical. But when we have that piece of information, it could be critical.
I'm not sure if it's because people are afraid to come forward. I'm not sure if they think that maybe the information that they have or what they saw isn't important. I've always, from the very beginning, said what you think is not important could be the one piece that they need. This person could well be walking in the grocery store that you're shopping at. They could be at the coffee shop you're sitting at. You know, they are in your town. They could still be in your town. And somebody knows something. And I just want somebody to come forward with any kind of information.
Jennifer says she's very much aware that the person who committed this violent crime against her mother is likely still alive. But she said she has no fear of that, and she will continue her very public search to bring her mother's killer to justice.
I'm not going away, and I'm not afraid of them. I've never been afraid. In the very beginning, when I pushed so hard in the newspaper and on the news and on the radio, I was never once afraid of this person. 2
ways this case could be solved. Someone comes forward with new information or advances in forensic science.
Science continues to get better and better, and it may be there's some evidence there that we've missed, that new technology comes forward, and we can use that new technology to analyze that evidence even further. And there's a lot of evidence that we still have in our locker, a lot of evidence that's already been analyzed, and just continuing to do detective work. And I think eventually I'm optimistic that we could solve this case.
And Jennifer will certainly not give up her search for justice. On special assignment in Butte, John Amey, MTN News.
All right, thank you very much, John. Quite the story.
Next on Q2, we'll catch a lift to ski seasons of the past at Red Lodge Mountain for this week's Q2 Rewind.
And coming up a bit later tonight in sports is Bobby Houck, the new football coach at Montana. Scott Breen has an update for us on that situation.
And coming up in weather, it is hard to believe we actually got up to 58 degrees today, but we did. What happened very early in the day. Since then, temperatures continue to fall. We have a number of cold fronts coming our way. We'll have the details coming your way in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green.